Welcome to the Further Light Podcast, presented by Wisconsin Freemasonry, helping you accomplish your Masonic goals through education and more light. And now, I present to you, Brother Chris Ludke.
Listeners, scholars, brothers, this is Brother Chris Ludke, and today I want to explore chalk, charcoal, and clay. Now, these are not tools in the traditional sense. In fact, it's something that we kind of breeze over in our lessons. They don't measure, they don't strike, and they don't bind, and yet these materials are charged with a profound significance in the teachings of Freemasonry. Often mentioned in ritual, but rarely explored in detail, they represent simplicity, purity, and the shared humanity of every brother. So in this episode, we'll define these three elements, trace their history, used both in the trades and within Freemasonry, especially outside the U.S., and offer three different interpretations that can enrich your practice and lodge experience. Finally, we'll conclude with a practical reflection you can carry with you beyond the lodge room. So let's start with the basics. Let's start with a definition. Chalk, charcoal, and clay are described in Masonic ritual as emblematic of purity, zeal, and humility, qualities that should distinguish every Mason. Chalk is easily spread and hard to retain. It comes from ultimately coral. It's calcium carbonate, and it's very soft. It leaves a mark easily. Charcoal is the result of fire, black and enduring, a symbol of transformation, inner flame, and has been used from ancient man as a marking implement, taking a log or a stick out of the fire that had burned and making use of it. Today, we use more smoldering fires to create this charcoal, but artist charcoal today is no different than much of the charcoal that would have been used in ancient times, including, and we still, use that today. For example, the color lamp black comes from burning lamps and then using a feather to collect the soot that develops within the glass bulb and adding that as a pigment to paint. Clay, of course, is soft and pliable, the very earth from which man is said to have been formed, and is typically found along riverbeds and underground. In this area of southeastern Wisconsin, where I live, it's incredibly common. It's easily taken from its natural state to a state that you can work with, create pottery, or create other materials. These elements are not working tools in the traditional sense. They don't appear in typical lists of the gavel, square, trowel. But in many Masonic traditions, especially those influenced by English and continental works, they are taught as moral emblems, simple substances that point to the heart of Masonic character. So where do these come from historically? Well, in early speculative Masonry, particularly in the 18th century, chalk, charcoal, and clay appear in lectures that were part of the catechisms for the first degree. While not always emphasized in modern American ritual, they have persisted in other jurisdictions as rich symbolic reminders of virtue and brotherhood. In traditional English ritual, for example, the EA is taught about these three substances and that they denote certain qualities we must possess. Chalk represents the virtue of friendship, soft, easy to spread, leaving its mark without harm. Charcoal symbolizes fervency or zeal, the fuel of an inner passionate fire. And clay represents humility, the substance of which man is made and to which he shall return. These interpretations become part of the broader moral instruction of the craft, giving tangible form to abstract ideas, capturing in basic symbolism that is easily understood, these abstract ideas such as friendship, passion, and humility, very similar to many of the other working tools in the craft. Now let's take a moment to see how these would have actually been used by operative masons. Chalk, of course, is commonly used even today as a marking tool in construction to draw guidelines, often with a skerrit, and sometimes used not unlike modern pencils or markers. It's used to outline cuts on stone or wood, to trace symbols, and to leave messages. It's easily wiped away. Impermanent, yes, but essential to planning. Charcoal, on the other hand, has been used as fuel in forges and kilns. In architecture and sculpture, it's been used for drawing designs on surfaces. More metaphorically, it represents the raw power of fire, the ability to transform, to temper, and to refine materials. Keep in mind, even buildings of stone, will fall in a fire. They calcify, they turn back into chalk. The marble turns back into chalk in a fire and collapses. Clay, the oldest of the three, is the foundation of the potter's craft. It's used for molds, bricks, tiles, the literal building blocks of civilization. It's pliable, which makes it a metaphor for the human condition. Moldable, fragile, yet full of potential. And when it comes to clay, even going back to ancient Mesopotamia, they used mud brick, sometimes fired, sometimes not, to build their structures. And that would give us fired brick, which we see used throughout Europe and in the modern world. Together, these three were ever present in the life of an operative mason, marking, fueling, and forming the work of their hands. So let's look at this outside of the United States in other jurisdictions. In the United Grand Lodge of England, particularly in the emulation working, these elements are part of the entered apprentice. The candidate is taught that these should distinguish a mason: the ability to give freely, the ability to burn with zeal, and the ability to be humble and teachable. In continental Europe, especially in lodges in the French or Scandinavian traditions, these substances may appear visually on tracing boards or be integrated into meditations and philosophical instruction. Even in parts of Latin America and the Caribbean, where we tend to see stronger moral or spiritual overtones, these three substances may appear in educational lectures, particularly when discussing charity, labor, and spiritual development of the individual mason. While not universal, the symbolism of chalk, charcoal, and clay is found in many parts of the global Masonic community, a testament to their deeper resonance. So let's look at some interpretations. First, we see the threefold character of a mason. So chalk, charcoal, and clay can represent a balanced Masonic life. Balance, that idea that keeps haunting us every time we look at the Masonic tools. Chalk, friendship and open-heartedness. Like chalk, our charity and kindness should be freely given and easily spread. Charcoal, zeal and inner fire. A mason should labor with enthusiasm, fueled by a passion for truth, justice, and brotherhood. Clay, humility and teachability. Just as clay is shaped by the potter, a mason should be willing to be shaped by the lessons of the craft. Together, these elements serve as a moral compass, guiding how we engage with each other, how we labor, and how we learn, reminding us not to put all of our time into our passion, not to focus entirely on friendship, but equally not to focus and constantly self-sacrifice as an act of humility. So balancing those three elements becomes really important. Really, this is looking at the social element of Masonry. Second interpretation, the idea of a life cycle. In youth, we are chalk, full of ideas, impressions, and imagination. We're forming the outlines of the person we will become. In manhood, we are charcoal, active, burning with purpose, contributing labor and energy to society and the craft. And in age, we become like clay, softening, reflective, aware of our origins and our return to the earth. This cycle reminds us of our own morality, our duty, and our potential. It brings perspective to each stage of life and encourages us to act with wisdom and integrity at each point. Then there's the idea of the hidden tools of the inner temple. In a more esoteric interpretation, chalk, charcoal, and clay can be seen as implements of the inner work. Chalk, that which marks our intentions, is the plan, the vision, the rough sketch of our moral architecture. Charcoal, that which fuels our transformation, is the fire of trials, of initiation, of purification. Clay, that which forms reality, is the substance shaped by will and habit into the edifice of character. This reading invites the Mason to see himself as both builder and material, marking his aspirations, fueling his efforts, and shaping his very being. So what do we walk away with? Chalk, charcoal, and clay, three simple substances, easily overlooked, but they carry a quiet power. They teach us that the most profound truths are often not found in the sharp edge of the chisel or the precision of the gauge, but in the stuff of earth and fire, in the things that mark, burn, and bind. As Masons, we are not merely bearers of tools. We are the vessels that carry intention, passion, and humility. Chalk, charcoal, and clay remind us to remain generous, to burn with purpose, and to yield with to the shaping hand of wisdom. So next time you enter your lodge, or sit in quiet reflection, ask yourself, what mark am I leaving? What fire am I feeding? And am I still moldable in the hands of the Supreme Architect? Until next time, may your words be measured, your heart be warm, and your foundation be humble as clay. Thank you for joining me, Brother Chris Leakey, and the entire Further Light team on your quest to find more light through Masonry.
Are you interested in learning more about Freemasonry in Wisconsin? Visit wisconsinmasons.org to learn more about Masonry and access further educational content and more light. Once again, that address is wimasons.org. Any questions, comments, or suggestions, please email us at education@wisconsinmasons.org. And thank you for listening.